Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome to the joint press conference of the Ministers of Foreign Affairs of Finland and Estonia, Mr. Pekka Haavisto and Mr. Urmas Reinsalu. We will first hear the statements of both ministers, and after that we have some time to take questions from the media. And now I would like to pass the floor to Minister Haavisto. Please.
Thank you, and I have had a pleasure and opportunity to meet my old new colleague, Minister Urmas Reinsalu from Estonia, hosting him today here in Finland. And of course I'm saying this because Urmas has already long experience as working as a foreign minister, and now he's again appointed to the similar position. And of course we continued our discussion where we left it last time. Our bilateral relations are very deep and close between Estonia and Finland, and of course there has been several issues why the contacts are so close. The war in Ukraine is a common concern for both Estonia and Finland, and of course during the COVID-19 times we had a very intensive cooperation, have had very intensive cooperation with Estonia as one of our closest neighbors. I also want to use this opportunity to thank Minister Reinsalu, Urmas, through you, the whole people of Estonia, for your very strong support for the Finnish EU membership, for our candidacy, for the rapid process that we were able to run this spring, and for your very rapid ratification of Finnish and Swedish membership to NATO. And of course, we already have 23 ratifications out of 30 NATO members. 7 are still missing, but we see that the pressure is already there also for others to hurry up, and I'm very happy about the feeling that we are now part of the same military alliance, defense alliance, and we can work also more intensively together with Estonia on the issues of defense cooperation. And of course we are defending also our common values. Finland and Estonia shares very much common understanding on democracy and human rights and integrity of nations, and of course for that reason we also both intensively support Ukraine in their fight against the Russian aggression. Again, I want to thank the role that Estonia has played in this support. We probably know that you have been receiving a even bigger amount of refugees than Finland from Ukraine, and also your military and economic support to Ukraine has been very important. And we of course continue our cooperation, for example, on implementing the effective sanctions against Russia for these reasons in the European Union level. Finland and Estonia has also been preparing a common plan for the future cooperation, something that was originally, Urmas, initiated by you, and this autumn we will also publish this plan. There are many fields where we can in the future work more closely together between Finland and Estonia. Thank you, and I will leave the floor to you.
Thank you, Pekka, for these warm words. And we are in the midst of war, which influences all the countries in the planet, well, particularly countries in this region. And let me not understate, but the only bright moment to us in Estonia was indeed the momentum when we had in Estonian Riigikogu chance to vote for ratification treaty of entering Finland and Sweden into NATO. And in that perspective, Pekka mentioned a new cooperation report about the very vast sphere of areas about the digitalization, about ecology, about green policies. But I think also there is a momentum of, in a way, New Testament in a security cooperation between the Nordic countries, particularly between Estonia, Finland. And we in Estonia are all as a one man ready as members of our future union to stand and fight for Finland, Finnish freedom. There is no any caveat on that message. And secondly, we discussed also how to improve our support to Ukraine. I introduced some issues Estonia is right now working out, and also the restrictions we are putting clear restrictions additionally to Russian Federation citizens entering to Estonia. So the clear message is that from tomorrow valid, we are going to sanction basically all the visas we have earlier issued, and these sanctioned people having these sanctioned visas are not anymore let into Estonian territory. And from the beginning of war, we have seen that there is a vast mass of people starting to move over land borders of European Union in our region to Europe from Russian Federation. And Estonian position is clear that we have to work out the ways effectively to close European Union, not letting Russian Federation citizens to enter Europe. And this has a moral perspective, and this has also a security and efficiency perspective of ramping up the price to aggressor state Russia. And also we discussed energy cooperation. I think it's very important, vital now in these harsh times before the winter fall, our bilateral cooperation in establishing LNG additional capabilities to have a variety of sources to replace the Russian natural gas. And we spoke also about regional cooperation in these issues. And let me stress that there is although the times are harsh, there's always a good that there is a brotherly nation, brotherly people right besides you. And we are truly proud of that in Estonia. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister Reinsalu and Minister Haavisto. And now the ministers are happy to take questions from the representatives of media. When you get the microphone, please indicate which minister you would like to ask the question, and introduce yourself. Let's take here the gentleman first question, please.
Hello, Jari Hanska from Iltalehti. A question to both ministers. Is the restrictions that would put to also the visas that have already been given to the Russian citizens, is that a policy that Finland and Estonia would be driving together to applied in the whole EU region or in the whole Schengen area? And other question, do you think that there might be some legal issues concerning that it would limit the visas of only people from one nation? Is that legally possible to do?
Minister Reinsalu.
Well, yes, I informed my colleague also that we are going to raise the issue in European Union level, make proposals to European Commission to execute pan-European sanctioning mechanism, not effectively letting into European Union Russian Federation citizens. Of course, there are a list of humanitarian exceptions we have in mind. But effectively, it is one element is stopping issuing new visas, and another is indeed sanctioning already existing current visas. As we in Estonia have issued valid visas, we calculated before the war fall 50,000 plus. And European treaty gives a clear basis to do that. Also, We remember from the past, or near past also, about the coronavirus times when we used different methods to avoid the spread of virus over the borders, either outside or inside the Schengen area. And I think also there is a clear element of basis which could be used as a security or public order argument. And this is, I think, the very valid argument now. There is a war going on. There is a genocide war going on. And of course, the one element, as I said, is a moral perspective of letting people as a normality to go to see Louvre or Brandenburg Gates when by their tax money is financed aggression war. Another element is indeed a security assessment because of this, as I said, we're speaking in the wartime around 1 million people, 850,000 people entering from the land border or from the border to European Union. So it's quite reasonable to believe that this raises also complications to control all these people.
From the Finnish side, it's maybe necessary to repeat that yesterday the Finnish government discussed about the visa issue, and we decided that in the coming months we reduce the issue of the tourist visas to 10% for Russian citizens, what it has been now. So this means that it's more difficult to get the Finnish Schengen visa in Russia. We are not touching the old visas that we have. The visas are still valid. And of course, when you once have entered the Schengen area, there are no internal border controls or visa controls in the Schengen area. So those who have from one or another country entered to Schengen, it's free to move in the Schengen area. We are fully aware as Finnish government that the decision that we made yesterday is only something that one country in European Union has now done. But of course, this is to increase the pressure also that there would be a more common European Union or Schengen area policy on restrictions on the visas, and this topic will be discussed in the coming Gymnich meeting in the end of August in Czech Republic.
Next question, please. Yes, over there.
Sanna Nikula from Finnish News Agency. I'd just like to ask about that, what Haavisto just said. So for both, do you think it's possible to reach a common policy among the EU countries on visas if Germany opposes the visa ban or restrictions?
Of course, it's possible. Whether it's reachable, this is another issue. But whether, from our perspective, Estonian perspective, we have to make a full-scale attempt between our partners and friends to reach an outcome which is working and which is effective and which is also carries out a clear, significant message. This is something we need to work. And I think the countries are reflecting the positions in the first hand. There are going to be dialogue, there are going to be discussions, arguments, and I think that we have seen also positions which always, as European Union functions, is to find out a joint solution which is a working solution. So we are going in a positive and open mood to that debate. And let me say that this also was a solemn pledge. I was 2 weeks ago in Kiev. I met with President Zelensky, and he said personally, please, in Europe, do it. This is indeed there is a strong humanitarian cause in that. Thank you.
Well, of course, what is different now in this situation is that Finland released the COVID restrictions in the beginning of July, also from the Russian citizens, and then Russia released their own COVID restrictions at the 15th of July. So it has been possible to travel more freely only now a couple of weeks. What we have seen is the increased amount of the Russian tourists, but also increased amount of visa applications in our consulates and so forth. Since the beginning of the conflict, the Russian air traffic was banned, or it was part of the sanctions, and now we see that this sanction is somehow avoided by coming, for example, to Helsinki-Vantaa airport from Russia. And I think this is a debate that we have to now have between the EU ministers, explaining the situation, that how we see the situation. And in the coming autumn, I'm sure that there will be proposals of all kinds of sanctions in addition to Russia. This is one of those proposals. This might be even easier to reach than some other new sanctions and so forth, but it depends very much on the debate that we will have in the European Union.
We still have a couple of minutes, so one more question here in the front, please.
Hello, Elsa Osipova, Finnish Public Broadcasting Company. The first part of the question will be addressed to Mr. Haavisto and the second for both ministers. Mr. Haavisto, could you explain a little bit more in detail the goal and motivation behind the decision to restrict visas for Russian citizens? Is there any factual evidence that limiting, for example, tourist visas for Russian citizens would actually affect Russian state's interest or capability to continue war in Ukraine? And for both ministers, I'd like to hear your comment. Are you concerned that strict visa policies adopted so far by Finland and Estonia could actually lead, actually have a positive impact on Russia's President Putin's war fund if Russian citizens who would otherwise travel to Finland and Estonia and Europe to spend their money here outside Russia now will stay in Russia because of visa restrictions and spend their money there on domestic consumption? Is it that exactly in interest of Russian government in order to fund the war? Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Haavisto.
Maybe if I start first, we are fully aware that tourism from Russia has been an important source of income in the eastern Finland, in close to the border and so forth. And of course, when we are limiting the amount of the tourist visas, this means that there are less income in the eastern Finland. But at the same time, people have had very strong moral reactions to increase tourism in these circumstances when Finland at the same time is receiving a lot of Ukrainian refugees and so forth. So this is our reaction to that situation. We at the same time are not putting any restrictions on visas linked to education, people who are coming as students. We don't have any restrictions on visas for people coming to work or people who have own property in Finland or have some other reason of traveling, and particularly we don't put any restrictions of people who have family links over the border. So all these people are of course free to travel as they have been so far, and this is our position. Of course, we are using this as an example also in European Union that this type of restrictions could be made, or this is probably the way to go in these circumstances. If then European Union will follow this line remains to be seen.
Well, yes, good question. Russian Federation officials, if I look their statements, Mr. Peskov, whoever, they are taking it very painful, because their aim, strategic aim, is very clear: to say to Russian society, you live your life like nothing has happened. Go and have visit abroad, buy your console to your children of game, whatever, and life goes on. And we are just behind the corner where you do not personally see bombing with your tax money children right now, literally right now. And this is actually their concept. So, and they do feel their system that the influences or outcomes of that war, of these atrocities committed and continuing to commit, are returning to the streets and home garden, to the middle class of Russian society. Of course, the legal responsibility lies on Putin, his inner circle of organizing the aggression war. The legal responsibility of executing the war is on the hands of soldiers whose hands are covered with blood, with the civilian authorities supporting it. But still, Russian society bears a certain moral responsibility, and we can't deny that. And this moral responsibility means that passivity of Russian society has legitimized also this regime and its actions of atrocities committed in the middle of Europe. And therefore, I believe that also what is our strategic aim with all these sanctions we are working out? From economic perspective, separately, these sanctions have no any idea or are out of any reason in that sense. But they are actually should be looked as a package to ramp up the price to aggressor, which should end with the victory of Ukraine, with the concessions by Russia, and therefore the reasonable level of sanctions is such level of sanctions which in a near future leads to that outcome. Otherwise, to use a partial level of sanctions, I think it's just from the strategic perspective, it's going to be more painful to West, to us all, and is also an issue of reason, and also is lacking a humanitarian perspective, because the price tag is also, one thing is economic one, the second element is also on human lives.
We still have time to take the one last question over there very quickly. Thank you.
Tommi Kolehmainen, MTV News. I would like to ask Mr. Reinsalu, Estonia has removed Soviet memorials recently, and what is the message behind this action? And do you think it could raise tensions more?
I heard today that Finland removed Soviet memorial or some statue in Helsinki. Am I correct? But this is the information today I got. But this is purely our sole domestic issue. And these memorials have raised tensions in Estonian society. And therefore, the decision of state in sake of public order was to remove these memorials. And also, these memorials which were erected to commemorate the reoccupation of Estonia by Soviet occupation authorities. Of course, in these harsh times and atrocities we see in Ukraine, these have raised very painful feelings also all over Estonian society. We do remember in Estonia that in the times of as Nazist and communist occupation, we lost as a human losses around 1/5 of our population, and the current Russian regime is using these arguments and this propaganda of the Second World War and falsification of historical truth also as an element of psyops and psychological warfare, therefore also against us, as also against the broader scope of Western countries. And this was this reason of passing that decision yesterday, which has been carried out in a peaceful manner. And that's the momentum we are going to continue in Estonian soil to clean up all the territory of Estonia from these monuments which were erected by the occupational forces in the times Estonia was occupied.
Thank you very much, Minister Reinsalu and Minister Haavisto. Thank you, representatives of media. I wish you all a very nice and sunny afternoon in Helsinki. The press conference is concluded.
Thank you.